There's been so much talk about gun control. There's been so much talk about guns, automatic, semi-automatic weapons because of the Parkland shooting in Florida. And I know you're sick of it. And because you are sick of it, I have decided to talk about it, but not that in particular. I had this thought about rap and how rap is it's generally conservative. I know we think of rap as this left-leaning liberal genre because it's been commodified now. Now that corporate America has learned how to sell rap to you through movie trailers, through rappers that are just, basically industry plants, and they throw their agendas out there because they put money behind it now. They've been able to sell rap to you like it's this big happy-go-lucky genre that's all for change and all for the progression of everything. But generally rap in its real roots, at least with its first real revolution, was very conservative, very Second Amendment, very protect and stand my ground, and you cannot infringe on my rights. Gangster rap was the second revolution that rap had. The very first one that it had, I guess, is obviously its inception. But gangster rap was the revolution because they were using guns to protect themselves from tyranny. I mean, what could be more American than that? I know how everybody gets when you see images of gangster rappers with guns. You get this negative feel like, you're looking at a pack of hyenas with firearms. But what it really is the most American thing that you could possibly ever see. It's people letting you know that they will protect themselves by any means with firearms. And those are the rights that are given to them as American citizens. I'm going to show you 4 rappers who have, I wouldn't say 4 different perspectives. Some of them have different perspectives, but I'm going to show you 4 people who are giving you 4 sides to the argument of guns. The very first one that I'm going to show you is the oldest person, and obviously somebody who came from this revolution that I just spoke about, Ice-T, and he's going to shed some light about what he thinks about guns.
I'd give up my gun when everybody else does.
And is that
Doesn't that make sense?
Well,
doesn't that make sense? I mean, if there were guns here, would you want to be the only person without one?
So do you carry guns routinely at home? I mean, you have a gun at home?
Yeah, it's legal in the United States. It's part of our Constitution. The right to bear arms is because that's the last form of defense against tyranny. Not to hunt. It's to protect yourself from the police.
This is pretty much as conservative as you can get on the subject. Everything is about not infringing on my rights. Everything is about protecting yourself against a tyrannical state. I mean, obviously, he's bringing up the police because, this is probably PTSD that he has from the 80s. But this is as conservative as you could get in rap. Somebody who's just like, look, this isn't about hunting. This is about just protecting yourself. And I will protect myself. If everyone else has guns, then you will not expect me to let go of my weapon. Now, next up is somebody who I would consider more right to center, not as extreme as Ice-T, but is a NRA member, and that's Killer Mike.
Make sure that 1 million black men join the NRA. Let's show up on the floor of the NRA like Maj does. Let's show up like the NRA spokesman, my man Colin Noor, who says that, Michael, part of the problem is every time guns are described in reference to black people, they talk about gangs and drugs, and that's unfair and that's wrong. Most gun owners that I know, whether it's 10 people to my left or my right, are responsible home-owning black men with families who own rifles and handguns. They own rifles because they hunt for sport. They own handguns to protect themselves. They have a shotgun in the house to protect their wife and children. That's most of the guys I know. We need to normalize that. People need to see Tavis at a shooting range. People need to see Dr. Cornel West trying to get off a Uzi at the range. You know what I mean? Yeah. But what we cannot...
I think it's important for us who live in blue states, as I do, that we have to learn that there are some citizens out there that just have guns because they enjoy having guns, because they go to gun ranges, because they use guns for hunting. We always have emotional responses when we see these school shootings, and we could never imagine why any human being would possess a gun. But I think if the perception of why most people have firearms, and I do believe that most people who do own firearms aren't crazy, or let me not use a term that people would consider as dismissive, aren't as emotionally disturbed as people think they are. There are some logical people out there that look bad because of what we see on the news, which is no different than any other narrative than you see on the news. And that's something that we all have to remember. You always have to remember that no matter what you see in the news, there is always a general and a wider scope of that subject that's being misrepresented. It's the same with black people. It's the same with Muslims. And it's just like that with guns. And that's something that we have to remember. There are people out there that just own guns, just like people ride motorcycles 200 miles per hour down a road. You don't have to own one, but you like it because it's fun. The next person that I have here is T.I. Now, T.I. I would consider to be more left to center because he brings up another subject.
Well, I think that if you ban firearms or ban any kind of firearms, you leave it in the hands of the criminals. Only the people who are willing to break the law to keep them will have them. The law-abiding citizens who have their Second Amendment right, which I don't, who have their Second Amendment right to bear arms, they would then be, I guess, vulnerable. Because, for instance, I can't carry a gun now. It's illegal.
Right.
If I choose to carry a gun right now and I have one, once these laws are passed and they're completely banned, what is it, double illegal now? I've already risked my freedom to carry it before then.
But you don't want everybody walking around.
I do not. No, I don't. I believe that there should be a more heightened criteria.
You want mental exams?
I think there should be mental stability tests. I think there should be maybe yearly reinstatements, you know, to see, you know, reevaluate mental stability. I just think that, you know, a lot more should be. I think that just having a clean record isn't good enough to be able to have a firearm. It should be more criteria.
Now, T.I. is a convicted felon. That's what he's referring to. He can't legally own a gun. And I got to say that I disagree with that a little. I think if somebody has paid their debt to society, I think if somebody has gone to prison and they've done their time, I don't see anything wrong with them owning a firearm. Now, maybe you could say that they would be put through much more of a strict process to holding on to that gun, but I don't think that somebody should be deprived of having a weapon just because they've been to prison. Now, T.I. brings up the subject of mental health, and, you know, I believe in New York City, by the way, we do have an annual checkup every year. I don't know if it's a mental assessment, but if you do own a gun in this country, there is an annual checkup requirement that you do have to do if you own a firearm. I would imagine that T.I. is more left to center because of this reason. I would say that even though T.I. has been caught with tons of guns in this video, you know, I have no clue about any of his cases. I don't know what he's personally done with guns, but I think he would probably also say that he would like to ban automatic weapons. I think that would probably also be a sentiment that T.I. would hold, and I don't think I could say that about Killa Mike or Ice-T, because obviously the mass shootings, that's the reaction that you normally get. And by the way, when people say semi-automatic weapons, just remember that you're basically saying all guns. Most guns are semi-automatic. A semi-automatic is just you pull the trigger and one round comes out, one bullet comes out. An automatic, obviously, you squeeze and that shit goes until the magazine is completely out. So when you say semi-automatic, you mean pistols, you mean Glocks, you mean the simplest of all weapons. Now, the next person that I'd like to present to you, and I don't want you to laugh when I say this person, because I understand the stigma that comes along with his age, with his with his persona, but he is a person nonetheless, and he has something to say about the situation. 21 Savage.
It's one simple thing that would get rid of all the problems in the world. You take guns away from police, civilians, everybody except the army, which protect the whole country. It wouldn't be no gun violence. Why does a police officer need to have a gun if no civilians have guns? If we take away guns from our civilians, police officers won't need to have guns. You know what I'm saying? Vice versa. That's what I think. That's the easy and simplest way to solve it. take everybody guns, not just the civilians. Take the police.
This is obviously the most extreme, most left-leaning, most progressive, most New York feeling of let's throw all our guns in a barrel and let's ride off into the sunset, and there will be no violence. There is no need for the police to have any guns now that we don't have any guns. Of course, we haven't said anything about knives or any other weapons. So if I'm being assaulted, what the hell is a police officer going to do to stop this person from assaulting me? But this is the most pie in the sky opinion, in my opinion, the most less informed and probably the most dangerous of them all to say that we should throw all of our guns away. I mean, first of all, that's just not going to happen. He's completely entitled to his opinion, but it's a rough one. And it'll be a rough one to convince people that you should throw all your guns away, considering what history has told us about how democracies can go pretty much rogue and how the citizens basically become the prisoners to the state. That's not very recommended. But I think it's very important to get all these perspectives. I think it's important because rappers are people too. And just because you have one occupation, that doesn't mean that you all see everything the same way. Just because you're the same color, it doesn't mean that you see everything the same way. You can come from the same neighborhoods and hold different viewpoints on something. And I think that that's important because hip hop, we're American citizens too. We live in this country too. And to assume that everyone would pretty much just align with what the Democratic Party has to say, because for whatever reason, for so many years, people of color just automatically vote Democrat and they just align with how Democrats feel about guns. And that's wrong. I think everybody should have a mind of their own. I think everybody should have an opinion of their own. I think just submitting ourselves to the democratic viewpoint of everything is just how we enslave ourselves so much more as people, because we don't do any thinking for ourselves. What do you guys think about this situation? What do you think about gun control in general? What do you think about the 4 opinions that I showed you? And also on the screen, you'll notice that I have other videos that I've dropped here about a week ago. You can also click on those if I've piqued your interest. But please let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time.